Hi, this is Huili Wan. Welcome to Cloud Access Security Broker CASB Fundamentals. In the last video, we talked about the first deployment mode, API mode. In this video, we move on to talk about proxy mode. There are two types of proxy mode, the reverse proxy and the forward proxy. In this video, we first touch on the reverse proxy. We'll talk about the deployment and the advantage and limitation of this mode. A simple reverse proxy flow looks like this. The request started from the client to the service. Instead of going directly to the service, the traffic stopped at authentication and is rerouted to CASB. Here we have the CASB control. Either it would be scan, threat protection, enforcement, or encryption. So after the activities is done, then the request is sent over to the cloud service to start the business transaction there. So this is literally the real access broker because there's no bypass. The traffic is rerouted here, and it is frictionless in user behavior because the user was not aware that the traffic is rerouted. It's not as frictionless as what we mentioned in the last video at API mode, because in API mode, the control is actually integrated into the service. But again, from the user's perspective, there's no interaction, there's no interruption of the flow. And the rerouting happens at the authentication place where it's either at your own authentication server or you through identity provider or federated identity providing services. And the CASB control could either be hosted or cloud. What that means is we talked about the functions of CASB control. Either there could be the scanning services or a lot of engines and the risk database, the signature base and encryption engines and the logging, all the analytics functions. You have to place it somewhere. You can either place that in your own in-house, in your own territory, or you can put that in cloud and leverage the CASB functions as a cloud service. Either way, the reverse proxy works the same. That is rerouted from the authentication to CASB and then put it back to the service where it wants to be. Reverse proxy can cover the unmanaged device contextual controls. Take managed devices. If you send the request from here to the authentication before reaching the service, then the reverse proxy will redirecting the traffic to CASB. And in the unmanaged device, even though your company are not aware about the device and or you're using that from home, to access the service, you still would have to go through the authentication, and the rerouting could happen. At the authentication, the IP address, the device profiling, and maybe even the geographical location would be aware, so that information can be fed to trigger the corresponding CASB control there. So both unmanaged and managed devices can be covered. Unmanaged devices can be controlled using reverse proxy CASB, but not for unsanctioned services. The key here is if you want to access your cloud service, you have to go through authentication, and from there, the rerouting happens, and that go through CASB control. But if you are using even a managed device and you want to access a unmanaged services, or permitted or unknown, you will not be able to do that because there's no authentication happening here. So the traffic will not be routed to the desired CASB control point. That's a limitation of reverse proxy. Another limitation is just because of the traffic rerouting, there will be extra latency in the entire user flow. And thirdly is about the data. Reverse proxy could control data in motion. For example, if you want to send something and you have to go through here to have that encrypted before you can upload to the cloud store in the cloud storage. But for those data that's already in the cloud, there's no way to reach over and put the control, either doing classification or doing encryption. And lastly, with this, the control happens outside of cloud service. So there's no way to really manage cloud-to-cloud transaction. Okay, that's what we have for reverse proxy mode. We discussed the deployment and the advantage and limitations. So in the next video, we'll continue on the proxy discussion and move on to forward proxy. Thank you very much. Goodbye.